Today I really wanted to talk about promoting your jewellery or your brand at live events. Now, this all came about because over this last week the whole UK is starting to open up a little bit more, and we're starting to think about going to maybe sports events or music events, and we can meet in a pub and go and have lunch with family indoors and things like that. So, you know, things are starting to feel like we can get back to normal. And looking ahead, it may be possible later in the year that we can start looking at doing events such as artisan fairs, craft fairs and trade shows. And I'm really hoping to get involved again later in the year too, because this week I've been making a couple of little samples for workshops I'm hoping to do at some of the trade events I do later in the year. So it made me think, right, okay, so if anybody's starting out, or even if you've done a little bit of this before, I just wanted to share with you some of the things I've done over the years. I've done craft fairs and events for much longer than I've ever done metal clay. I started craft fairs, I'll say 20 years ago, and although I'm not doing craft fairs as such these days, I do much bigger events, trade fairs and things like that. So I just wanted to share with you some of the tips and tricks that I've come across, because I learnt the hard way, of some of the things that you'll need to make sure that you've got ready, prepared, etc, etc. So there's 10 kind of points I'm going to look at today. First of all, choosing the event. Make sure you're choosing the right event for your particular product. Then we're going to look at getting prepared, what you need to make sure you've got everything ready for. Market research, really important that you know what you're looking, who you're looking to sell to. Branding, showing that you are professional, if you like. What happens at the point of sale, making sure you've got your money ready and credit cards, if that's what you're going to do, and all the rest of the things that need to happen at the point of sale. Making sure you promote the event, looking after yourself at the fairs. I don't think enough is said about that, because I know how hard it can be. Preparing yourself in terms of a packing list, making sure you've got everything, it's too late once you're there, and leaving lasting and good impressions behind, and evaluating the event as well. So there's lots of points I'm going to talk about today. 5.5 pages of double-sided notes is what I've come up with, so it's taken me pretty much all day since this morning to write up my notes ready for today. So let's get going. First of all, let's look at the events that you might want to look at. If you're selling your finished jewellery, and this is your first step into selling, you might want to keep things small, and not launch yourself into, you know, high-end expensive event. But do think carefully about what you're doing. So choosing your events, really you need to think about the different events there are. So there are small craft fairs that you might see at a school fete or a church hall or a village hall, something like that. Now generally these little craft fairs are to raise money for the charity, the event, the organisation. So you'll pay a fee, entry fee, and then they're going to take money on the door, and they might have a very small limited catchment of people they're attracting. So you know, if it's in the village hall, then it might be the village that get to see the notices and things like that all about this event, but it may not have a far-reaching catchment of advertising. So you might find you've got a limited number of people that attend that event. Now generally, I know this is a very general, I find these much smaller events, people have come along to support the event, to buy a cup of tea, to take part in the tombola, and they haven't come to buy high-end jewellery. So think carefully about whether that's the sort of fair you want to do. But I won't knock it, because it is a good starting point just to feel your feet at what these events might feel like. It's a good starting point. Then you've got the sort of the middle ground events, something like a pop-up craft fair that you might see in a town or a city. They tend to be one-off events or over a short period of time, maybe at a country fair over a couple of days, or maybe near a Christmas. I know in York, nearer to us, we have these cabins, and artists hire these cabins and they're selling their jewellery. So you're going to pay a lot of money for a stall in a marquee, or especially those cabins. They do cost a lot of money. So they are enormous events, and I wouldn't recommend that's where you start yourself. That's something to work up to as you go along. So do think carefully about that. And then you get the big professional events, such as gallery events and things like that. So usually they are juried to get into. Locally here in East Yorkshire, we have an artists organisation called East Riding Artists, and they'll frequently put on, not immediately at the moment, but they'll frequently put on exhibitions at events and such like. And in these exhibitions, the exhibition might have a theme, but generally your work has to be juried to see if it's suitable to go into that event. So that's top end, if you catch my drift. So again, you know, think about carefully about where you're going to place yourself to begin with, and where you find your jewellery is going to fit in a market. So choose your events carefully. Now also in choosing the event, I'm just going to flip my page, is you need to have a conversation with the event organisers. Don't just think, right, this is the event I'm going to do, you know, get an application form, fill it in, send your money off. Make sure you've had a conversation with the event organisers, whether that's an exchange of emails or a phone call. I do recommend you have that conversation. And the things you need to find out are how many stalls there are going to be at this event, and how many stalls like yours are there going to be at this event. I'm going to give you a scenario of one of the events I did early on. Was at a big festival that we have locally, and it was an enormous festival, and it attracted people from far and wide. It was over the course of about 4 days. It was a massive event, and all the artisans that were invited to join the event, you know, we paid a fair whack for our stalls, etc. And when I arrived, I hadn't done this kind of check-in. When I arrived, I was either side of me with 2 other jewellers. In fact, I think there were 4 jewellers in a row. So I was kind of going, so people were coming round and just seeing a block of 4 jewellers. They didn't see, you know, 4 individual artists here that were all different. Although all our styles were all different, they just saw a block of jewellery. So people were just kind of, they cast their eye in that direction, saw one and wandered off, because maybe that's not what they wanted. So positioning is really critical as well. So make sure you know where your positioning is going to be within your event that you're going to do. How much are your stalls? Yeah, this can vary quite a bit, from 20 quid for, you know, a small craft fair in a village hall or a school fete, to hundreds of pounds at big trade events. So, you know, it'll depend on your market, what you're looking for, what you're hoping to achieve, and what you're prepared to pay. As I say, the small events are great for a starting point, but you know, the more you pay, the better the audience that you'll find come to the event. Ask these event organisers how they're going to advertise. I think it's important to find out what footfall they're going to expect. You know, are they expecting 20 people? Are they expecting 200,000 people? What's their expected footfall? If they've done these events before, they'll have some sort of indication as the amount of people they're going to get through the door, and that's going to feed you with information that will help you make a decision. So what's the expected footfall, and how are they advertising? So, you know, it may be that they're just putting a few posters up locally, or are they running a radio advertising campaign, or a that kind of thing. Social media is massive now, so I'm sure that most places will have some sort of social media advertising and campaign going. Get involved with that as well yourself to promote the event. Also ask about parking. If you're familiar with the venue, that's great. You'll probably know where parking is, but if this is not a venue you've been to before, then make sure you know where you're going to park for the duration of the fair while you're there. Do you have to pay for parking? Things to consider. If you do, make sure you've got enough change to pay for the parking. Make sure you've given yourself plenty of setup time. Generally there is a window of probably about 2 hours for setting up at some events, so make sure you've given yourself plenty of time. I generally get there as early as I can to set up, to make sure I am set up in time. But if I'm set up early, that's great. It means I can have a cup of coffee and a chat with some of the other stall holders before we actually open the doors. Make sure you know your table size, so you've planned properly, and ask the organisers if there's Wi-Fi there. It might make a difference if you are using credit card readers and things like that. If you are, then make sure you've got your chargers as well and it's well charged up. Make sure you also know if the tables and chairs are supplied, and do you need electric, and where the electric sockets are. Make sure you know all these kind of details before you go. So being prepared, I'm just looking at my notes again, being prepared. Firstly, you need to make enough stock to display, and that doesn't mean to say that you put every single thing you've ever made on display. Be selective, make it look classy rather than cluttered. You know, people will glance over at a table and they'll make a judgment on what they're looking at within the first couple of seconds. So if all they can see is a lots of things, they kind of get confused. Make sure they can see something really clearly and cleanly, and it's uncluttered, and they might focus in on something that catches their eye rather than 100,000 different things on the table. Yeah, make a cohesive, attractive display is what you need to do. Dummy run this at home. You know, set it up on your table at home. Give yourself, you know, if you know you've got a 6-foot table, then get a 6-foot table and set it up at home. The thing you need to make sure you've got is a tablecloth to cover your table, because generally in places the tables are utilitarian tables. They're not beautiful, they're not a gorgeous oak table or anything, they're very sort of run-of-the-mill. So you'll need a nice table covering. Now think carefully about your table covering is what I would say. Choose something that is fairly plain, not busy patterns on it. You want people to see the jewellery and not a busy patterned tablecloth, not busy clothes. Not a busy patterned tablecloth. And choose a fabric that doesn't crease well. You're going to bundle it all up and put it in a box. So don't choose a linen or cotton or viscose. You'll find they crease really badly and hold their creases. So I have a crushed velvet thing, which is great because if it's screwed up in a ball, it still looks fabulous. So it's a tablecloth that you want to put over the whole of the table. I'd suggest it comes down to the floor, because that will hide all the clutter that you've shoved under your table as well. So make sure that your tablecloth is big enough to reach the floor, and where your corners are, make sure that while the tablecloth touches the floor or just about reaches the floor, make sure it's not dragging on the floor, because as people walk by, you don't want people snagging their feet on the cloth. In the corners, again, you'll find the corners can dangle, so make sure you've pinned them up. So a couple of safety pins to turn up the corners and pin them up out of the way so nobody can catch them with their foot or anything else for that matter. You don't want all your stock disappearing off your table, or likewise you don't want to trip anybody up, so be careful about your cloth. Create levels. Creating an attractive display, I would say create different levels. It really makes quite an attractive. Go and have a look in a jeweller's shop, you'll find they do the same. They create these different levels, so taller things at the back, and then to lower things towards the front. Bigger at the back, lower at the front. That's the sort of thing you need to do. Now you can buy steps and risers, these special things to put on display. However, if you haven't got those, you can use a couple of boxes, and again you can put your tablecloth over these boxes, couple of boxes, to create these different steps and risers, or just another piece of cloth, a second piece of cloth over the steps and risers too, or over the boxes, to create these different levels. Avoid too much additional clutter on your table. You've got your jewellery on display, whether they're on busts or by any other means. Avoid putting too much other distracting props in there, I would say. The scenario I'm going to give you is, I was at an event many years ago, and it was near Christmas time, and I had a snake of little fairy lights on the table as well, just to give it a little bit of a twinkle and sparkle for Christmas. And I had two, no lie, little Christmas trees this big, and they were like little LED Christmas trees. They were from Marks and Spencer's, battery ones, and I had them on the table just to add a little bit of a Christmas theme to the whole of the table. And that's all I had, apart from all my jewellery, two little Christmas trees either side, and a string of fairy lights. Someone came along and said, "How much are the trees?" I'm not selling trees, I'm selling my jewellery. So too much clutter can be distracting. Again, it can confuse the customer, so just be aware of putting too many props of whatever you think you might want to put in there, extra bits of wood or whatever. Remember, you're displaying the jewellery, and let that sing really, rather than all these other props and things that you can put in there. Lighting, I can't say enough about lighting. If you're selling jewellery, I would say you need to have additional lighting as an absolute essential, because it will help your jewellery sell. It will make it pop, it will make it sparkle, it will make it shine. So do get yourself some little additional lights. Now you can buy LED rechargeable things, which are great, or battery operated things. If you are using electric, then make sure you've told the organizer you're going to need electric for electric lights. You might have to pay extra for those electric sockets, and take yourself plenty of extension cables, because you don't know where that socket's going to be as well. So extension cables with electric lights, I think, is an absolute essential. As time goes by, you may need to have your electrics pat tested, which is a portable appliance test. So you may need to get those tested, and have the little stickers on those as well. The organisers might ask you for insurance details and pat test certificates to be compliant. So just be aware that you might need that as well. Which insurance, that's something else you're going to need. Insurance, you generally need at most events public and product liability insurance, just to keep you safe and to keep the customers safe as well. Most larger events and organisers will ask you for your public and product liability insurance. Do your homework. There's lots of organisations out there that do that sort of thing. Make sure you've got your pricing in place. I'll come on to pricing again a bit later, but make sure you've got all your jewellery priced clearly, so people don't have to ask. You know, that's scenario of, if you have to ask, then it's probably too much money. So make sure people can clearly see the price you're charging for your piece, but I'm going to come back to that point later as well. If you're selling silver in any way, shape or form, make sure you've got your hallmarking. Now, we did have a little Workbench Wednesday last week all about hallmarking, so make sure you've got your hallmarking sign up if you are selling any jewellery, and have a mirror as well for your customers. One or two of your customers might want to try a necklace on. Of course, you don't let people try on earrings and things. They can hold them up to their ears, but they might want to try a necklace on to check for the length of the chain, etc, etc, or try a bracelet or a bangle or a ring on. That's up to you whether you're going to allow people to do that. But if you do, you might want to have a mirror, a little table mirror, so that people can have a look and see what it looks like around their neck. That's a nice little extra to do as well. So that's having a little dummy run at home. So you've set up all at home and you made sure you know where everything's going to go. Take a photograph of it so that when you get to the event, you know where everything's going to go. You've already worked it out. You haven't got there and gone, oh, I can't remember how I'm setting everything up. So have a little think about that. Oh, I'm just scrolling through all everybody's names. Hi Nikki, hiya Anna, hiya Wiz, Jane, Helen, Marie. I've written tips for concerns of your tablecloth. I'll try and post. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Wiz. I have a waitress tip for corners of tablecloths. Oh, a waitress tip. Yeah, like hospital corners. That's fantastic. Okay, so the next thing I was going to move on to is market research. Now, you'll find all the big companies all over the world do this. If they're going to launch a brand new product, then they'll do some market research. Hi Patricia. And generally that means taking it to a small group of people and getting them to test it. It could be food, it could be anything, to be honest, and getting them to test it out and giving their feedback through discussion on pricing, on quality, on all sorts. And you can do the same with your jewellery to give you a little bit of confidence in what you're doing. So make a nice evening of it. Do it like a little party plan. Get a group of your friends or family together, whether you're going to do it in your house or whether you ask a friend to host it in theirs. Bribe them with a bottle of wine and say, you know, can I come and show you what I've got, and just give me some feedback on what you like, what you don't like, you know, colours wise or shapes wise or price wise. Just give me some feedback on how this is going to go. This is all new to me, so it's a good way to feel your feet. Now, generally your friends and your family are going to be really kind to you. They'll be lovely and they'll say lots of really nice things, which is great because it will give you the confidence for going forwards, for what you need to do. So if they quibble about price point, start telling them the story about how you make these things. Start from the beginning. Well, my design inspiration was this. I then did a drawing like this. This is how I make it. Take them through the processes, and that's how I price it, because of this. This is the amount of work that's gone into making this piece. And once they understand all the processes, they kind of get a better understanding. I know I did it with a group of my friends, and at first they were like, oh, you know, we can get much cheaper stuff, you know, on the high street. Well, yeah, okay, well, go to the high street and go and get what you want, but this is bespoke, handmade, one-off pieces. If that's what you'd like, I'd love for you to you know, use or sell or buy my pieces. So yeah, there you go. So do your market research. It really helps. Branding. So when it comes to branding, branding is important because it will show you as a whole, if you know what I mean. So branding is not just your logo on your business card. It's all about the signature of the style of the work you're working in. Branding is all about how you present yourself, not just your jewellery, your display, your business cards, your flyers, your leaflets. It's how you're dressed. Everything around you, your personality, that will all become your branding. So, you know, look smart, look classy. Think about your hair, your makeup, your nails, if you are going out there to sell directly to the public. Make sure you've got a business card or a flyer that you can hand to those people, whether they've purchased from you or not. You know, you can get involved in a conversation with them, say hello, and then hand them a card and say, well, thank you for stopping by today, here's my card, if you're interested, or here's a leaflet, you know, if you're interested for the future. If you're not yourself, please pass it on to a friend. You know, it's all about being personable. So your branding is really important. And branding can be a fancy logo, and I had a graphic designer design my logo, my name. This is obviously my name. The font I use, the colours I use are all my branding. The font for my name and the font for Craftworks, the studio, are all the same font. So they all, you know, were designed by a graphic designer. But these days there's so much free stuff out there to design your own logos and have some kind of image, a brand. We're all familiar with sort of the tick of the Nike and the Coke logo and brand, so everything you do needs to replicate your brand and your logo. So think about that. I'm just looking at my notes. Yeah, I take a look at if you go to another craft fair, visit a fair yourself and walk around the fair with a critical eye. Be nice. With a critical eye, have a look at each individual stall, and what is it you can pick out about that stall that shows their image, their brand, their logo. Is it repeated throughout everything they've got on display? That's your brand. Have a look at that. Okay, so once we've looked at our branding, then we're going to look at money. If you've clearly priced all your items, then people can see, you know, the price point at which you are going to sell at. And in the UK, it's pretty much acceptable that the price that's displayed is the price you will pay. I know that can be different when you go to other places, but I just feel like in the UK, you know, prices are what they say they are. But on occasions you might find there's some canny little person who wants to barter and bargain with you. Now that's entirely your decision whether you're prepared to do that. Personally, I won't even entertain the idea of bartering or bargaining down my work. Not that I sell a lot these days, because I don't, but I'm selling my courses, my workshops, and believe me, some people still try to barter me down on those, on the price of my workshops. But no, I won't entertain the idea, and that's because you put in a lot of work. You know, if you start looking at every single process you do, right from designing, making, you know, putting the boxes together, all the marketing you've got to do, the petrol to get you there, the stand that you're on, every single thing you do has got a price attached to it. And by the time you've divvied that up through all the processes into your pieces, then, you know, the prices I put on my pieces are that value, and I don't want to give them away at any cheaper price. So just think carefully about if you want to accept people bartering you down. Personally, I won't entertain it, but that's up to you. You will need plenty of spare change, so have a money tin. I mean plenty of spare change, probably more than you think you need. Take yourself plenty of spare change. There's nothing worse than not having enough change to give to a customer. if they should buy something. Also these days you will need a card reader. I think without a shadow of a doubt you absolutely need a card reader. Now there's lots of different card readers on the market. There's iZettle and SumUp and Square, etc, etc. I recommend that if you're going out to sell your finished jewellery or even your workshops, then you get yourself a card reader. There was an event excuse me there was an event I went to quite recently. My daughter-in-law asked me to go with her to a craft fair up in Hull a couple of weeks ago. So I went as a punter, and we had to pay online to get in advance, which we had done, and then nobody was accepting cash. Every single stall was having to use a card reader. They had no choice. The organisers had told them, if you haven't got a card reader, you're not into the event. So every stall was only taking card payments. So it's definitely a future. So if you're going to be out there selling, get yourself some sort of card reader. Check them all out. There are different deals to be had on these different card readers, but I think it's something you definitely need to have these days. Excuse me. At the point of sale as well, let your customer know if you've got any exchange policy or repair policy going on. Again, that'll be entirely up to you how you work that or earn that or write it down, but you need to know these things and be prepared for them should somebody ask. Are they buying it for a friend or a family member or something like that, and what if they don't like it, or if it gets damaged? Are you going to be prepared to repair it? Are you going to repair it for free? Are you going to make a charge? Are you going to give them their money back if they don't like it? Just make sure you've got that in your head or written down somewhere, that you know what you're going to do. Packaging. How are you going to package your pieces when you are selling these pieces? Have you got fancy boxes? Have you got a bag? Again, this is down to your branding. Think carefully. It doesn't have to be, a fully logoed up box, but just some nice presentation boxes accompanied by one of your business cards, I think is an essential. So yeah, don't spend a fortune on branded boxes. You can get nice boxes and then maybe buy some pretty ribbon and tie it and a pretty ribbon on it, but make sure you've got a business card with it as well. So there you go, point of sale. So on to promoting the event. Now the organisers should have done plenty of advertising and marketing the event in advance themselves, whether that was posters, flyers, or mainly probably these days through social media, but it really helps for you to get involved in that process too. So like and share and post as much as you can on your own social media. Let your friends and family know, word of mouth as well, so that lots of people know all about the event and where to go. It really helps. Looking after you. I like to say that not everybody is aware about looking after themselves during a craft fair, an event, but I think it's really important, especially some of these events can be over a couple of days. I do lots of trade shows which are 4 days events, and they start early, finish late, and you're there all day and you can be talking all day long, which I generally am. It will depend on the size of the event and the stall you've got, how long you're going to be there, etc, etc. But it is useful sometimes to have somebody else with you, especially if you've only started out. But don't take any bored children and leave a bored partner behind. They are not going to be a help at all. Make sure they stay at home or go with Gran or got something else on. You want somebody that will be bright, bubbly, engage with customers, be a support and a help to you. A bored husband sitting in the corner reading the magazine or reading the newspaper is no help at all. So as I say, ditch them. They're not going to be any use to you whatsoever. So make sure you've got someone with you that is really supportive. You will need a helping hand, because there'll be times throughout the day you need to take a little break. You need to go to the loo, you'll need to get your food, you'll need to eat something. So yeah, you'll need some little breaks throughout the day. So take someone with you that will support you and help you. Be attentive to your customers all the time. Stand up, engage with them, talk to them. Good morning, how are you? What are you out looking for today? That's kind of my standard line. I don't go in with the hard sell of, oh well, this is, you know, just engage with your customers. It's a really nice way to again, get seen, be noticed. Even if they don't like what they see in front of them, just be nice. It's nice to be nice. Throughout the day, as I say, you will need to take a little bit of a break. So that's when your support will take over. It's okay to drink. If you need a drink while you're on your stand, that's fine. You know, you can have a little drink, a little sip of cup of tea or can of juice or whatever. People appreciate that you stood behind your desk all day. But I would say, if you need to eat, find a little cozy corner to go and eat in, and don't eat in front of your customers. It doesn't look nice if you're chewing a sandwich and then they ask you a question. It's happened. I'm talking from experience, and you're like, so you know, find a cozy corner to go and eat your lunch, and let your support help you out during that time. Loo breaks as well, you know, you need someone there. And as I say, gin, you need the gin, okay. Malika says she needs a gin. Then I've lost the track now. Check on what I'm saying. Yeah, keep on track. If you need to go to the loo, your support is there to help you. Yeah. You have really thrown me now with the gin. Oh, for goodness sake. Avoid the hard sell. I'm reading my notes. Blah, 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 blah. Eating your lunch. Right, I think I've done that bit. Okay, so so next, once we've done looking after you, oh, I know what one point I wanted to make. While you are being attentive to your customers as well, you've got jewellery, you've got a valuable product in front of you here. If you are, you know, sitting on your phone, not taking too much interest about what's going on around you, then customers can walk by and just think, well, if you're not interested, neither am I. There are also, dare I say it, it's nasty to say, but there can be unscrupulous characters that wander around fairs and events. Keep an eye on your stock. So it's another good reason to be attentive. Small little earrings are easy to pick up, is all I'll say. So just be attentive of your stock, and then, you know, you'll go home with what you should go home with. Okay, so that aside, what's next? Prepare yourself a packing list. All these years later, I still prepare myself a packing list of every single thing I need before I head up to the studio to pack up what I need. I make a packing list, write the packing list down, I tick off everything as I'm going, and then generally add a few more things as I go along as well, so that then gets scribbled on the bottom of the packing list. Keep your packing list and you'll use it again next time, so you don't forget anything. Now, I've got a couple of things which I would consider are my essentials, so I'll just quickly run through what my packing list would be. So first of all, you need to check table and chairs. Well, we should have done that. We should have checked we've got table and chairs at the point when we were talking to the organisers right at the beginning. Make sure you've got a table and chairs. I've turned up, had a table but no chair to sit on, which You know, okay, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to be attentive all the time, but just now and again you might want to just sit down for 5 minutes. Don't forget your tablecloth. Tablecloth is really important. It does hide all your clutter and detritus underneath your table, because you will have some. You'll have your bags and boxes and goodness knows what else. So keep a nice tablecloth ready. You'll need all your display items, whether you're using busts or steps and risers or boxes to create these levels. Don't forget your stock. I have done that before now. I'm just speaking from experience. Price labels, make sure you've got all your price labels and some spares as well. Make sure you've got those. Lighting and extension cables, money tins, card readers, any chargers or cables and things like that. Make sure you've got all those. Make sure you've got your business cards, flyers and leaflets, drinks and snacks, a notepad and pen and pencil. You may find as you go throughout the day, there'll be things that pop into your head about, oh, I need to remember this next time I come, I need to remember that next time I come, or customer might ask you about something, and yeah, sellotape pins, masking tape, scissors, yeah, all of those, they're on my list too. Just to take the extra little bits and pieces. You know, you probably don't think you need them, but once you get there, you just might. So they're really useful little bits and pieces to take as well. These days, I reckon you're going to need hand sanitizer on your table, and you're probably going to need that for quite some time yet. Wet wipes, I always take wet wipes with me wherever I go. You never know when you're going to need one of them. A cleaning cloth. Take a really nice, good cleaning cloth. You will find people pick things up and look at them, and if they end up with fingerprints on them because a little kid's come along and picked up something with their greasy little fingerprints because they've been eating a bag of crisps, then you can give it a quick clean with your cleaning cloth and put it back on display and make it look really smart, rather than it look fingerprinted and grubbed over, you know what I mean. A rubbish bag. Take your own rubbish bag. Sometimes the organisers do supply rubbish bags, but I always take my own as well, and I always leave the place clean and tidy. Tape measure. Sometimes a tape measure is useful if people wanting to, you know, measure necklace lengths. A couple of safety pins I find for pinning up the cloth, as I said earlier, to make sure your cloth doesn't hang, or you've got no loose corners and knocking her out. Make sure you've got the full address of the venue that you're going to, and you've got that in your sat nav, or at least you've got no directions of how to get there if it's an unfamiliar venue. And plan your route carefully. Don't leave it to the morning. Ring size, a good one, Nikki. Yeah, if you've got rings, take a ring sizer or ring gauges with you. If people want to, if you're taking commissions, you'll need to measure people's fingers, etc. So yeah, that's a good one to take with you as well. Plan your route and give yourself plenty of time to set up. Keep the organiser's phone number handy. I do remember one occasion I was heading to a venue and I had a flat tyre, and I knew I was going to be late, so I wanted to phone the organiser. I phoned the organiser and just said, look, I've had a flat tyre, I'm on my way, I will be there on time, maybe a bit later than I really wanted to be, but I will be there. And they were just, oh, well, thanks for letting us know. You know, we won't let your table go or anything like that, because if you are late, sometimes they can let your tables go to someone else. So just keep in touch with your organiser. If you think you're going to be late, let them know. It's just a courtesy as well. So what else do we need to think about? Leaving a lasting impression. I think it's always important to leave a lasting impression. Wear some of your own jewellery is a good advertisement. Yes, Jane, absolutely. Wearing your own jewellery is, again, it's down to branding and marketing, isn't it? Wearing your own jewellery is showing your brand off, and showing you love your stuff too. So definitely wear your own jewellery. Nikki and Jane saying the same things. Leave a lasting and good impression. And what I mean by that is, yeah, make sure you've left your customers with a business card or a flyer. If you're wanting to promote your workshops, your courses, give them a flyer, give them some information about what it is you are promoting. For me, it's usually my workshops and courses, so they go with business cards and flyers, a bit of both, to make sure nobody passes by without getting something to take home. And then when they're unpacking all their goodies, they'll go, oh yes, that was that lady, that we met at the fair. And so, it leaves that lasting impression. It leaves the lasting impression to your customers. And also have a chat with the neighbours of the events as well. I don't mean all the time. I mean maybe when at the quieter times, first thing in the morning and generally last thing at night, you're all packing up and a bit busy and it all gets a bit mental. But first thing in the morning, or if you've got a little quiet time before the actual event gets started, have a good chat with some of the other stall holders and events, network with them, be nice. It's nice to be nice and compliment them on their pieces. You'll never know who you're going to meet and what connections you can make. I've been doing this for years and years, and I've met some really lovely people, and we've made some amazing connections, and networked and all sorts of things. Some great things have happened through these meeting other people. They often will tell you about other events that are going on, that good events and recommended events. There's all sorts of great stuff that can go on. So be nice to your neighbours. And clean up at the end of the session. Don't leave all your detritus of all your sandwich packets and goodness knows what else. As I say, take a rubbish bag, put all your rubbish in there, and either take it home with you or find a bin to put it in. Don't just leave it lying around. The organisers do notice these kind of small details, and it leaves a nice good impression for you with those organisers in the future. Don't pack up and leave too early. There's a temptation as things quieten down towards the end of a show to start packing up really early, and most organisers will tell you not to pack up early, because if you do, you could lose the position of being able to be part of that event in the future. Sorry to mention this, but lighting is important. I attended a fair in a room was very poorly lit. Good thing I had a couple of lamps. It would have been very hard to see my jewellery without them. It was that dark. Yeah, exactly. I can't stress the importance enough about lighting. I think lighting is critical if you're selling jewellery. So thanks for that, Patricia. So yeah, don't pack up too early. Generally, say for example, if your show is finishing at 4 o'clock, don't be starting to pack up at 3:15. It's a bit of a no-no. Maybe by 3:45 you can start squirreling some of the things that are under your table, or getting boxes tidied and ready to pack up, but don't pack up too early. You will find there's still customers in the hall, and they may have just spotted something on your table that they're going to come back for at the end of the show. So yeah, don't pack up too early. If you've packed up too early and they come back and go, oh, I was interested in that ring, and you've already put it away, are you going to get it out again? Or yeah, so don't pack up too early is what I will say. Finally, evaluations. I think it's really important to record all your sales, but not just the sales. I would record lots of strange little details as well, like what the date is, the day of the week, the time of the year, the venue you're at, how long it took you to get there, whether you thought the footfall was good or whether you thought it was bad. Get a little bit of a feedback from the other sort of stall holders, if they've been people that have worked there on that event many times before. Ask them, how does this compare with previous occasions, and blah 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 blah. Note all these details down, because as time goes on and you do more and more events, you'll start to see a pattern, and I think it's really helpful to see where your best sellers are and where the best events are. So then you can be a little bit more selective about what's going to work for you, with your particular style of jewellery. Or a stall holder might want to buy, yeah, exactly, stall holders sometimes might want to buy something from you, and they can't get off their stall during the day, so right at the end of the day they might have just 5 minutes, like it might be 5 to 4, and they'll just run back and go, have you got that pendant, or have you got that ring, I'd love to buy that now. So another reason to not pack up too early. You know, you've spent all day there, what's 15 minutes, 20 minutes more? Just work it out. It's worth staying for. So I hope some of those tips have been useful. As I say, I've been doing it quite a long time. I do lots of trade events these days, big events in the NEC and such like, or go up to Glasgow and all sorts of places. So yeah, these are just some tips I've learned myself over the years, and I hope I've shared those with you to give you a few tips to help you along with yours. If you've got any other tips, if some of you have done lots of events before and you've got something I've not mentioned, then please by all means drop it into the comments box. It's always useful to get somebody else's opinion as well. So I hope you've picked up something there that might be of use for you. And I would just like to say thank you very much for joining me this week. I will be back next week with another live. So yeah, what else can I say? I think I'm done. So thanks again for joining me. Oh, Jane just said, I have a simple piece of work on so folks can see you make this yourself. Always a talking point. Yeah, indeed. I agree, Jane. If you can find a little space on your table, and it only has to be, 12 inches of space, if you can be working on something yourself, it shows you are the actual genuine maker, and people are interested, and sometimes people will stop and pause to watch you carry on working for a little bit and then say, would you like to know what I'm doing? Again, it gets you engaged with the customers, and if they know you are a genuine artist and maker and you just haven't bought it in, it makes them a little bit more engaged and interested in what you're up to and what your jewellery is all about. So there you go. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you've picked up a few tips, and as I say, I'll be back next week with another Workbench Wednesday, Workbench Wednesday 10. I will be live again next week, so I hope to see you then. Thanks a lot, folks.